BBOR, Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. On this channel, we have been talking recently about Jeffrey Dahmer for the past couple of days, so tomorrow we're definitely going to have some new subjects. But the reason why we're continuing the discussion is, as I mentioned in part 2, it's like no matter what film or what presentation on Jeffrey Dahmer that's out there, it really seems like there's just something that's missing. It seems like people just can't cover all the bases and all the information. So just to kind of recap a few things, mostly to discuss about some of the sources that are available about him online and the reference points, I'd say that at first this was one to me that seemed just kind of very abnormal. Once again, until a couple weeks ago, I realized I had never really kind of jumped into the kind of world of Jeffrey Dahmer, and I'd never really sat down and just tried to watch a full documentary and just tried to look at that particular case and situation. And at first I thought it was a very puzzling mystery about what drove this man to kill, like what drove him to commit his first murder in 1978. And now going through the stuff, I'm just like, this was no surprise at all. This guy just had all the makings of a serial killer. His father perhaps even had, some of the kind of psychological issues that Jeffrey Dahmer did, but this was partnered with Jeffrey Dahmer not being able to bond with his mother as a child. And that kind of set him down. He just grew up as a budding sociopath, as a budding serial killer. It was just a matter of time. Let alone that this was partnered with a fascination of dissecting roadkill. That is something, though, that should not be the highlight of everything. He spent lots of times in a shed in the woods trying to cut up the carcasses of dead animals, which actually helped him dissect bodies later in life. But so many people would do something like that, and then they would grow up to be a scientist. Like someone's learning about chemistry, someone's learning about biology. There has to be a different type of psychological element going on within the person that would kind of drive them to commit these types of murders. If you're looking for like the types of material online about this stuff, I said the Murderous Minds documentary that I cited in part 2. That is just like something that I cannot recommend enough. It's about 56 minutes long, but so much detail and information was pulled into that one. I highly recommend that anybody watches it. I mean, if you're going to be in this far off corner of YouTube here, you've probably already seen it, but I mean, I was very impressed that sort of a web-based, kind of web-created documentary on the Top Fives channel was so kind of detailed compared to the other sort of studio-generated materials out there. Also, last night I was watching the 2002 film Dahmer. I believe it was 2002, right? And one of the things, though, is they use that film in a lot of the other sort of documentaries and YouTube videos. They take little excerpts of that film and they put it into some of the other material. And I was like, I thought the guy that they had playing Jeffrey Dahmer looked nothing like him. I thought that Jeffrey Dahmer in real life was much more pristine, suave, charming, and the guy that they had in the 2002 film Dahmer was just kind of sleazy, and he looked like a slime ball. And then the opening credits came, and I was like, oh, that's Jeremy Renner. Huh. Hawkeye. Hey there, bud. Sorry about that. No, I mean, no, they did. It was with Jeremy Renner, actually, and at the time that one came out, I remember seeing it in the video store. I had no idea who Jeremy Renner was, and I didn't recognize him until I saw the opening cards at the beginning giving off the actors' names. I would say, though, I saw that one recently, and My Friend Dahmer, which is based on the graphic novel by Derf Backderf, who was a personal friend of Jeffrey Dahmer growing up. With both of those things, unless you have some sort of foreground or just some sort of kind of pre-established understanding of who Jeffrey Dahmer was and like the murders that he committed, murdering 17 people from 1978 to 1991, it's like, unless you know who he is prior to this, I don't know how anyone could enjoy those films. As someone who's a true crime follower, yes, absolutely, I did like them, because both of the films are just kind of examinations and windows into Jeffrey Dahmer's life. My Friend Dahmer is about his teenage years, exclusively his teenage years, and the 2002 film Dahmer with Jeremy Renner is about his kind of murders that he was committing, but also they had a few windows that go back into in time, like flashbacks and such. And that was done in kind of a confusing way. I didn't know at first that they were actually showing a flashback. I didn't think they made a very good effort to make Jeremy Renner look younger. Like, oh, he's playing young Dahmer now. At first, I didn't catch that because I'm not the sharpest movie watcher and such. Like, I'm not just like nitpicking at details. But like if somebody, maybe from another country or something, would just turn on either one of those films with having no idea who Jeffrey Dahmer was, I don't know how they could enjoy them or how they could follow the story, because it's just like, once again, it's just like it's just windows and segments into a person's life, and you wouldn't really know where's it all going because the movie doesn't show you. Oh yeah, he grew up to kill 17 people, and then, or like he's unleashing sort of a reign of terror. But I think though that Jeffrey Dahmer was somebody who really had a sort of lack of love in his life, disconnected from his parents, disconnected from his family, inability to form real relationships, and he was just that child in an adult's body without love. He was the lonely one, as described by Ray Bradbury, and an absolute textbook example of a psychopathic torture serial killer. Forcing bodies into a 57-gallon plastic barrel so that the stench of the corpses wouldn't spread throughout the building. I mean, he just kind of went down the dark and twisted side because he thought that he had no boundaries. And I mean, some people sort of believe that Jeffrey Dahmer converted to Christianity on a false pretense. They believe he did that as sort of a publicity stunt, and other people say that Jeffrey Dahmer was very open about his atheism, saying that he was an atheist. He thought that he was the zenith of everything. He thought that he was the most powerful thing in existence, and he could make his own rules. And then once he got to prison, he realized that that was not true. But some people don't believe any of that. They're just like, he's just making stuff up. He wasn't an atheist. He wasn't a Christian. He didn't care about any of it. Well, and they're saying that because he described himself as the devil. Multiple times, Jeffrey Dahmer described himself as the devil. So it's like, well, which one is it? He's just saying stuff, in other words. That's what they believe. Like, he's not expressing any kind of consistent view on spirituality or anything. He's just saying different things to different people. But I think, though, that it's a very complicated story. But the person, Jeffrey Dahmer himself, is very simple. He is someone who was the child who did not have love, and he inherited a certain sense of mental illness from both of his parents. And on the podcast First Degree that I used to listen to a lot, they always say this expression, in the cosmic shuffle of things. And I really started using that a lot, because it's like Jeffrey Dahmer's two parents got together. They both had some messed up psychological elements, and they came together and they had their first son, and he went on to grow up to be destructive. This happened in the cosmic shuffle of things. And, I mean, I think his story is complicated, but the person, Jeffrey Dahmer, is simple. Like, he inherited mental conditions from his parents, and he didn't have a lot of bonding with his mother growing up. Lack of love, plus mental problems, led to him becoming a psychopathic torture killer. Not to mention that he was a homosexual who had to hide that from the public, always just new things to feel, rejected from society. Surgery on his scrotum when he was 4 years old that left him growing up with a feeling of sexual inadequacy, which is something that we do really see a lot from a lot of people. I mean, all of these things came together. It was just a matter of time before he unleashed his kind of reign of terror on Milwaukee in Ohio. But that's just kind of the concluding thing that we would say about Jeffrey Dahmer on this channel for now. I just thought that I thought that it was a very big story, so multiple uploads could really kind of cover all the bases. And once again, though, if you haven't seen them yet, I do recommend watching the films My Friend Dahmer and Dahmer. Dahmer, of course, with Jeremy Renner, and then I hope that I can read the full 224-page graphic novel, My Friend Dahmer, because I think a graphic novel would be a very interesting way to portray the story of Jeffrey Dahmer. I really think that this would be kind of a different way to just get some more insight in it from someone who knew him firsthand. But you see so many things, though, in his teen years: unconventional behavior, obnoxiousness, antisocial personalities, and just a lack of regard for true friendships, a lack of human interaction. But one thing they said on Inside Edition that I did not agree with was that they're just like a sane person wouldn't even think about the stuff that Jeffrey Dahmer did. And I really wish they wouldn't say it that way because what about, people who are following true crime and such? What about people who are just learning about this stuff? It's like, I mean, yeah, some people do think about these things, and I wish they wouldn't make it so general. I think what maybe they should just sort of say is people who are sane should not enjoy fantasies of what Jeffrey Dahmer was talking about as opposed to simply thinking about it. Because this is one of the things where they just overlap all the definitions of what a thought is in psychology. They're just like impulse, fantasy, intention. Like they conflate all of these things into one and they just say that these are thoughts. But that's not true. Impulses, fantasies, and intentions are all different things. So says me anyway, but I guess the challenge question of the day would be have you ever experienced a dark or twisted quote unquote thought? And what does it mean to you? I mean, like that would be some what is your definition of dark and twisted? That's really the question that I wanted to ask. What is your definition of a dark and twisted thought? I would love to hear what you have to say, or if you just have anything else to say about Jeffrey Dahmer, drop a comment below. And until next time.